Hello, hello. It's Coyote Christina, surfer, author, dream weaver. This is Goosey Boo. Say hi. Hi, Goosey. Where's your go? It is TGIF Friday. It is week 9 of the Amazed and Amused campaign. And it's been a full work week. And I'm recording this at 11:30, almost at night. And the campaign has been an awesome experience, but it's also been a lot to post every day or almost every day. I have done a post for every day, so some days I've done two or three times. I did 3 posts, I think. I had to catch up. But we're here. I can't believe it's the end of the journey this time around, at least, sharing with you all about my book, Amazed and Amused, Often Confused. And I have my Long Live the Weekend shirt on, ready for the weekend. Long live the weekend. And we're wrapping up the chakras and the conclusion to our journey to joy. So one of the things when I was first heartbroken and on my first initial journey from heartbreak to joy, like the first time when you just feel like you're never going to feel joy again, and I felt some really powerful darkness, and there were times that I felt like I described it as being on the event horizon of a love that once belonged. Like, it felt like this darkness was so strong, and there was like an invisible barrier that at some point, if I crossed it, I was just going to be destroyed. So then I thought it'd be really fun to write a book that like compared our emotional states, how we're feeling with emotional states with physics. And one of the things is going from classical to quantum. And I talk about it a little bit in the book and make little comparisons, but I do find it interesting, like the whole world of matter and our lower chakras and what's concrete and what we can feel. But then we go into quantum mechanics. So we go from classical to quantum, and then it's all the world of ideas and possibilities. And if you can think the thought, then how do you bring that idea and vision down into the world, like a peaceful world? So I just find that really fun to play with those ideas. So maybe that'll be one of my next, I already have, there's a couple more books I want to write, so we'll see here. And then I just wanted to start, it's one of my favorite quotes from, I've quoted Joseph Campbell a couple times, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And this one is one of my favorite. Tragedy is the shattering of the forms and of our attachment to the forms. Comedy, the wild and careless, inexhaustible joy of life invincible. So I like that. It like speaks to my soul, makes me. And that is like, we're so like, tragedy is so heavy and dark, and we do go through that grief, and we have to honor that and take time to process it and find the connections with ourselves and with others, to get through that dark, heavy feelings. And then comedy, we realize like everybody goes through that, and sometimes you look back and wonder like, oh my gosh, it's just like the funniness of the human experience. So like, okay, I'll tell a little story because I just thought of it. The day when I had this realization, the first time, like, when I actually connected with my inner wisdom, and it spoke to me very clearly in a voice. I was swimming laps, and I'd had a crazy day where I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus, I was super on edge, and just really, like, my emotions were all over. And I went, so by the end of the day, I decided to go swimming, and then I pushed off. And then at one point, like, I was crying and my tears were mixing with the water, like every breath, every stroke I took, and I would gasp for air, gasping for an answer. And then finally a voice inside my head, just a calm, still voice, said, you need to take care of yourself. So that was my inner wisdom telling me. I was so worried. I was actually in law school at the time, and I had too much on my plate, and my whole life I had given my energy to others. I knew how to be a good friend, a good daughter, a good sister, a good cousin, a good aunt, but I didn't. Putting my energy into my dreams and myself was terrifying. Like, it really felt like I was going to lose all those relationships if I wasn't maintaining them and giving my full to them, and if I gave to myself. And so I was just at that plate of exhaustion and like, oh wow, I need to take care of myself. So I pushed off the wall of the pool, my last lap, I'm swimming, and all of a sudden my calf seizes up. And so I pull myself out of the pool and I pull off my swimming cap and I'm limping back to the locker room, and I'm just like miserable, like red puffy eyes. I've been crying, sobbing in the water, feeling just like total tragedy. And I turn the corner in the women's locker room and there's like a full length mirror, and I look at myself and my hair is like sticking straight up from pulling off my cap, and I'm like hunched over holding my calf, and I was like, another voice inside me said, "Woman, you're a wreck." But I could smile, I could still laugh at myself. And it's just like that moment when you're like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. Like, at least I can find a little comedy here. And luckily I was in a spot where the tragedy and darkness was a lot about my emotional state. It wasn't about my surroundings or being in danger. That's a whole different story. So anyway, I hope you're glad I shared that. I hope you find that amusing. Amazed and amused. That's what we're here for. So now I turned my computer around so it makes those glares on my eyes. But so I want to talk today. Fridays are chakra days, and I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the two flows of energy. So the energy flows up and down, and when energy flows up from our lower chakras and through our heart, through our throat chakra and out our crown chakra and third eye, that is a flow of energy that's moving towards spirit and freedom. And then there's an energy flow that comes down, and that energy flow that comes down is moving towards soul and manifestation. And I just thought this was a really, this is from Anadeo Judith, my main source for chakras. Eastern body, Western mind, Anadeo Judith. So I'm just reading. I actually wrote it down, but this is from the book. In the journey up, we have access to the raw properties of the upper chakras, such as visual perception or language, but we are not yet organized at those levels. Our center does not operate from that state. The infant sees, but does not have a storehouse of images from which to make sense of what he sees. The toddler babbles, but does not yet think about what he is saying. The child loves, but does not yet understand the intricacies of relationships. You might say the access to the upper chakras is unconscious and it filters down, but we do not live there. It's almost like we're getting a paycheck from the boss, but we don't yet own the company. The journey upward allows us to access higher levels of organization and complexity. Each one a new realization, a shift in perspective, a transformation. In the journey downward, however, we bring that higher awareness into our lower chakra activities. Instead of forming our decisions by feelings, based on feelings alone and those knee-jerk reactions, we can base them on principles. Instead of repeating impulsive behaviors, unhealthy habits, coping mechanisms, instead of having those impulsive patterns, we can develop a strategy. Instead of merely discovering who we are, we can create who we are. Our principles, strategies, and creations include the lower levels, embellishing rather than denying them. The energy coming up from the ground is dynamic and expansive. It is the energy stored in matter, full of potential for transformation into heat, light, activity. The energy coming down from the top is systematic, and calm. It organizes, orders, governs. Yet, without energy coming up from the bottom, there's nothing to organize, nothing to govern. And without energy coming down from the top, the ground energy turns into chaos and dissipates into nothing. You're not accomplishing, or you're not gaining awareness. So I just thought that was a really interesting, as I was rereading, I haven't read it for a while, about the chakras and how the energy systems work, and a little more about that energy moving up, the energy moving down. And I wanted to look at starting from the basics when we talked about our rights and the chakras. So basically this is our chakra system. So the first chakra is the right to be, the second chakra is the right to feel, the third chakra is the right to act, the fourth chakra is the right to love, the fifth is the right to see, the sixth is the right to, fifth is the right to speak, sixth is the right to see, and seventh is the right to know. So you think about those basic concepts and those rights of what each chakra level kind of represents. And then I think this is a really interesting one that talks about the energy flows up and down. And I'm definitely not going to be able to read that. So let's see. The upward flow of energy starts with matter in our first chakra, movement in our second, energy in our third, love in our fourth, creativity in our fifth, insight in our sixth, and understanding at our seventh chakra. So as we're moving up, we get to experience each one of those. Like all of a sudden we're here in our body, we're matter, we're first chakra. Then we're moving our bodies, and that's movement. And then the energy that forms from that, and how do we manage that? That comes up to our third chakra. Then we come into our social identity and the love and how we relate to others, or the lack thereof, unfortunately. And then if we move up to our fifth chakra, then it's our creativity. How do we express ourselves in the world? And if you don't think you're creative, do you live your life every day? Because your life is your creation. So you can either create by default or by design. So after we get up here, when we get to understanding the seventh chakra, that's when we can design. If we start understanding, we can bring that flow down. Now we can get to a point where we're being. And then the sixth chakra isn't just about insight, it's about illumination. It's not just about creativity, it's about inspiration. It's not just love, there's also compassion when we bring that energy back down with awareness. The energy in our third chakra from that movement in the lower chakras can now be used for transformation on the way down. And then when we come down to that second chakra, it's not just moving our bodies, now it's connection that we're forming with that movement and in manifesting. And the bottom one is manifestation. So I just find those really interesting, and maybe that's not enough information to make sense of it all, but I hope it is. I hope it perks your interest, and maybe you can go buy Anna do this book. All right, we're going to wrap up TGIF with a little reading from the conclusion of Amazed and Amused. The full title is Amazed, Amused, and Often Confused. And I'm thinking of maybe having this subtitle be Animal Guide Inspiration. That's my newest one. I haven't decided the rest, but it's definitely going to start with Amazed, Amused, and Often Confused. We have come full circle, reclaiming our birthright of joy, and found that every journey ends and begins on the shores of the Graces, and once we arrive, we know there is no other way. These shores are deep within, and when we open to the option that the universe is conspiring in our favor, the Graces come to our side. We create a community that surrounds and supports our wild soul. Ready to play, ready to fight, looking out for the good of the group, not allowing the few to dominate the many, using whatever animal medicine and inspiration that is needed. An army of ants spinning the web of spider, where every being has the right to self-determination, grounded in the principles of our common humanity. We are all connected. In the present moment, there is no space for worrying about what is to come or what has gone before. We dance into the night, feet pounding the earth, creating the heartbeat that will build the life of our dreams. In the land of the ancients, we find we are home. We find others who are ready to celebrate, ready to play, and ready to fight for the wild soul of time and space. We fully accept every part of ourselves, and we are okay with being too little to some and too much for others. Who we are is just right, and there is no wrong. We lay our greatest desires on the altar of the universe and continue on our journey, unencumbered by expectations and destinations. So there we are. That concludes the round of the journey to joy, making it to the graces, and it's the beginning and ending place of every journey once we arrive for the first time. Because unfortunately life is ever changing, the things that we're doing, the people that are in our lives, and when we love deeply, there's always going to be a loss that happens at some point, most likely. So there'll be that grief and that initiation of letting ourselves go through the process of feeling those feelings and honoring them. But it's also the preciousness of life. All right. Tomorrow is our I Descent. It's the final day of the campaign. I hope you'll join us for that I Descent, and have a great night. Bye-bye.